2 years since its historic vote for equal marriage, how has the country changed for its LGBTQ population? Has the increased visibility brought about through the referendum made a difference, or do old prejudices still prevail? Throughout this series, we'll highlight the breadth and colour of our community, our successes and supports, our talents and trailblazers, and discuss what it's like to be LGBTQ in Ireland.
My name's Kate Moynihan. I'm the coordinator here in Link. Okay, Link is a community organisation for lesbian and bisexual women. Our aim is to improve the health and well-being of lesbian and bisexual women in Ireland.
And how did it come about?
On the shoulders of giants, really. You know, we've been here since I think it's about 1999 that the organisation was first established, and it was established as Cork, where some group of women came together through doing workshops about setting up an organisation. It was a dream of many women, because there's always been activists, there's always been women involved in supporting each other, setting up alliances in Cork for going back 30, 40 years at least. And so slowly, the women decided that they wanted their own place. And through that and over the years of different incarnations, then the name was changed to Link.
And what's really unusual is that most people might realise this is, in Ireland, this is the one place that's exclusive to gay and lesbian women. Why do you think that is?
Bisexual women, yeah.
And why do you think that is unusual? Do you think there's a greater need, or why would you think that there's not more places like this?
Indeed, why aren't there? That's the thing, because I think, well, I'd like to see, it's Cork, you know, even I'm a Kerry woman, but Cork has always had that, I think, a vision. People, like, you know, the first gay conference was in Cork. There are many firsts in Cork of like the lesbian gay film festival. So we've always been, there's been a huge activist base within the city, and I think that has really supported the development of Link. And one of the ways we've also developed is we're very much about the community. We come from the community. Like you know, my own development, I suppose, you know, has been through Link as well. You know, using the services initially, coming in, you know, painting the place. So we're very much community based. We have 2 community meetings a year, and all our policies are decided by the community. We also have very different needs, I think, than you know, the G and the T within the LGBT community. So it's what I really think that they're needed. There are other organisations like this needed around the country for that support for women. And we have at different times thought, oh, you know, let's you know, we'll just become a gay centre, and it's very much gone, no, we actually need our own space. Yeah. And people are very much for that.
When you were talking about the services, some of the things you provide, you have the peer support, counselling services, and the positive health. Could you tell us a little bit about some of those? Our
peer support group, we meet every couple of weeks. I suppose one of the really important things is having a social group, a community where you can socialise is so important. Link is often a place where it's the only place where a woman is actually out and they can be themselves. And we have many women who come into us where it's that haven for them. And it's almost like a launch pad then, you know, because you start making friends, then you start coming to other, like we've a few different social parties here in Link during the year. The positive health has been, I suppose it came about a few years ago, where there were some suicides in the community, and we knew we needed to do more work around that, providing that support to people. So with the counselling service, we run a low-cost counselling service where we pay for most, it's counsellors outside that we refer people on to. That's hugely important. We have a drop-in on a Thursday night varies. We can put on anything from cooking, classing to history talks. We'll be putting on talks for LGBT History Month.
Can you feel a difference since the referendum? Like, do you think people have become more accepting?
I think it's been a long process, and there's definitely more acceptance there. There is definitely, but it's been a long fought process to get to that point. I think it's going to take another generation of LGBT people who, before the scars that we have all developed fade. We see what's happening in America, but here in Ireland, while we're very much covered through laws now, but you still have that fear can still be there of coming out to your family, coming out to your parents, your brothers, your sisters, and still we would have a lot of women who've been married as well, who use our services, marrying at a time when they felt that was the only option for them, or realizing in later years, not necessarily late in life. There's never late in life, but it's like in later years that actually, something they tried to hide. They may have fell madly in love with their husband, but buried some part of themselves, and that, as we all know, you can't bury things.
If women wanted to contact you or find out more information, what would they do?
Well, they could ring us, or they could call in. So, our phone number is 021 480 8600. I can never remember phone numbers. It's probably an age thing. So then you can call into us. We're 11A White Street. We have a Facebook page, Link Women, which is linked to Twitter. We have our own website, which is linc.ie. So Link originally stood for Lesbians in Cork. That was the name that came on it, but really we don't really use it in that way anymore, because we are pretty much national at this point.
Hello, my name is Orkin and I am a makeup artist. Well, makeup-wise, I work in retail essentially, so I would be a retail artist. So I sell makeup, obviously, do makeovers day in, day out, that kind of thing. And then I also work freelance as well. So like my freelance stuff, I don't tend to go towards bridal. I'm more like into working with musicians and things. Like I kind of started by just playing with makeup, and then through things like Instagram, putting my makeup online, because Galaxy approached me. They were one of my favorite bands before I even spoke to them, and then asked me to do a music video for them, and then I ended up doing that. That came to pass, and then just decided that it was something I could do for a career.
And you are kind of well known for working on yourself, doing your own makeup, things like that.
Yeah. So I think a lot of that stuff is more, it's like my creative side, I guess. It's all, like I'd say 90 of it is influenced by music. So I take songs that I like, and then kind of see it as a visual thing, and then turn that into a makeup. It's usually, I guess, kind of sadder tracks and things, because I think they work better, and you can kind of get across more drama and things. Then I'll take themes, so I might take a certain band's singles and then start doing those piece by piece. But it's just it's great because it kind of keeps me going towards doing stuff and being more creative, because there's always something I'm listening to. I originally started playing with drag stuff, and then after I did a club night here and there, and then I just realised that while I enjoy drag, it was the makeup aspect of it that really interested me, and kind of the transformative power of makeup.
And is there a process to makeup? Do you have to, the way you're saying music is your influence, where else would influences come from?
Music would be kind of my main one. I love products as well. Once I see a product and it interests me, I'll figure out a way to kind of use it in what I'm doing. But music would be kind of my main background for that, because it's what inspires me the most, and it's the area that I want to work in the most. So again, just working with bands, musicians, doing promos, live stuff. It's a great way to kind of tie what I do into what I love. The first kind of thing that happened to me was Matthew Anderson, who's RuPaul's makeup artist, kind of liked some of my stuff, and then that freaked me out. So I was like, oh my god, because this was before anything kind of really picked up. It was just when I was playing around. So we kind of exchanged comments over and back. And then there was another makeup artist called James Vincent. He's like a New York-based artist. He's amazing. And he does so much stuff, but he kind of started commenting on my stuff, and then we kind of commented over and back, and he kind of helped me with so much. Like, he's become a mentor to me in a lot of ways, because he like would run the makeup show. He would be the director of artistry for it, and then a few other different kind of areas that he works in. And then the legality thing happened, and then everything kind of snowballed, but it was kind of being reached out to by other artists who kind of enjoyed my work that made me think that I was going the right way.
Yeah, so you say, you know, an awful lot of your makeups would be influenced by music. Were there any particular songs or tracks that, you know, that stand out to you that you can really remember affecting you?
Yeah, like kind of like more standout ones to me would be kind of the more visually impactful, or things that kind of, I think, where I was going through situations that I would have wanted to be creative to kind of like work it out. So there's like a piece called Bird of Prey that I did, which was one of the first, it was the first makeup I did since I came back from the last time in New York, and it was something to do with like kind of that sense of like longing to go back and belonging to, feeling like I belonged part of that, and then leaving it. So like it's just like white, like it's completely white, black hair, these two crows on my chest, and it's a song that I really love as well. Like, it's probably the only good song off the last Editor's album, but it's that Editor's Bird of Prey track, and it's just very kind of like visually striking. It's something I want to get kind of a tattoo of, I think.
And is it, when you think of like songs visually, how do you translate it? Like, do you almost see colours, or is it feelings?
It's kind of hard to describe, really. Like, I would hear a song and then I would get certain ideas. So yeah, colours and things, I guess, that would kind of like tie into that, the way the song sounds, or like the way the beats are and that kind of thing. And then I would build up something that's kind of creative based on that. Like, another one I did was for Compulsion by Roche. And it's just very kind of dirty disco-y, and I wanted to make something very, like, the guy who sings on it is from the Irrepressibles. And he has this kind of like really sad, sorrowful diva sounding voice, like when Hercules and Love Afraid did that thing with Anthony Johnson's. And I wanted to make something really structured, but at the same time look kind of like dark and messy. So it was like hot pink with like messy black, and this really, like, you know, that impossible triangle thing. That was like something I spent a long time drawing on. One of my favorite bands is Fucked Up, and they do this thing called the Zodiac series, where it's like these big long 20-minute long punk tracks, and they're doing like a Year of the Dog, Year of the Pig, or whatever, and so on. So I've been doing a makeup for each of those, kind of working my way through it, but I always find sometimes they can be the most challenging ones, because the songs are just so immense that you're trying to put them into something, or like structure them into a look. But it's fun. That's kind of where the challenge is, I think, and that's where it's kind of easier to be creative with it. Because I do things more in terms of videos and stuff, there's always evidence of it. So if I create something, I will do photos and then kind of put them up online piece by piece, and it becomes its own artwork, I guess.
Is there a weird disassociation like that? You're kind of working on your own face. Does it sometimes feel like it's not your face?
I don't really kind of use my face for any specific reason. Like, I'm happy that my face is grand to work on. I find it easy to work on because I guess I know it, so I find that fine, but I don't ever think it's kind of like, I never really think of it as not being my face anymore. I'm just kind of working. But I never really think of it as being my face anyway. I never look in the mirror and think, this is my face. So thanks for kind of getting into my head there, and now I'm probably never going to be able to look in the mirror again.
Brilliant.
My name is David Carroll, and I'm the director of Belong To Youth Services, and Belong To is the national LGBT, that's lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender youth organisation. Belong To was founded in 2003, so we're still a fairly young organisation, which is apt for an organisation that works with young people. And I suppose Belong To, first and foremost, came about really to change what was perceived as a real lack of any kind of safe spaces where LGBT young people in Ireland could gather. So core delivery of our service still centres around actually providing those spaces for young people. So we've a range of groups that meet here in Dublin on a weekly basis, and then we also support 22 groups across Ireland that meet every week. And also, as from 2003 onwards, very quickly after establishment, we began to realise that there were a number of significant presenting issues that all too many of the young people who were attending our service were affected by. And we began to really realise that we had a role in also advocating on improving and changing those kind of specific barriers to young people's full participation in Irish society. So there were a number of issues that really confronted us in the early days, from talking to those original young people. The prevalence of homophobic and transphobic bullying, experiences of isolation, difficulties around coming out, mental health difficulties. So we began to advocate on those issues too, to kind of affect real societal change, and it's something which has become a core part of the organisation. So it's really providing the space for young people, empowering them into encouraging them into leadership positions, getting them to become really actively involved in changing what they perceive needs to be changed to make the world and Ireland a more LGBT friendly space.
And what is the process for a young person contacting you? What way could they reach you? And is there a process when somebody contacts you? Do you have to assess the situation or things like that?
Well, the services are open for any young people between the ages of 14 and 24. Many young people find us online. Our website belongto.org carries a list of all of the LGBT groups across the country. So obviously with social media, online, Facebook and Twitter are very popular ways of young people to find out about the service. Some young people also call, so they'll call and they'll be put through to a youth worker. Often the youth worker will recommend that they come in for to meet with one or two of the staff, or alternatively young people can just feel free to drop into any one of the groups that are listed on our websites. They don't need to make an appointment, they don't need to be referred, they can just turn up. And really then there's safe spaces and young people have a choice then. Some young people will come to our Sunday service, other young people will come to our Wednesday afternoon drop-in, and then some young people will come to all of the services.
And would you have many parents contacting you?
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of parents contacting us, and we also support here, belong to an organisation called Look, which is Loving Our Out Kids, which is a support organisation run for and by parents of LGBT young people. And it's interesting because I think one of the real signs of the progress we've made in Ireland around LGBT issues is really crystallised in the experience of parents who contact us. Because when we kind of opened our doors in 2003, it was very common to get calls and requests for support from parents who really didn't know where to go and who were often very upset at the idea of their sons or daughters being LGBT. And in 2015, that's really changed. Now the majority of calls we get from parents are much more about either I suspect my son or daughter is gay or lesbian, how can I talk to them about it? Or sometimes they have come out to me and how can I say the right thing and do the right thing? How can I support them? So I think the experience of parents who contact us is a real measure of some of the change that's occurred in Ireland in the last couple of years for the better.
And could you tell us something about the Individuality group?
Individuality is one of our specific groups that is for trans-identified young people, and Individuality has been going since 2007. We actually think it was probably amongst the first trans youth groups in the whole of Europe at the time when it started up. And again, like many of our groups, Individuality came from a direct need articulated from young people. We use a model of work, our youth work team use a model called critical social education. And essentially what that's about is, again, encouraging leadership and empowerment and young people to become active participants. So when we talk to young people, very quickly we realised that for some sections of the community they often felt underrepresented and wanted specific space where they could discuss issues themselves. So our Ladybirds group is a group for young lesbian women, which was set up very quickly after the establishment of Belong To give young women just a space to be with each other, and similarly with Individuality, which is a space just for young trans people to explore the issues that are particular to them. And I suppose it's very much about friendship, but also I think the real benefit is we know that the peer support generated, all too often we still find that young people do have a period of time where they almost feel, am I the only gay in the village? And the most valuable thing to counteract that isolation is meeting other young people going through similar issues and circumstances.
Have you, being on the front line, have you noticed the slow change in attitudes? Has it been visible, or has it been just something that naturally occurred?
I think certainly, I think we will look back at the last decade or two in Ireland, and for LGBT communities, and not just LGBT communities, but certainly for LGBT communities, the progress has really been phenomenal. I think we've come from a place of, I suppose it's just over 20 years ago that homosexuality was decriminalised, and in that space, in that time, we have seen a huge increase in the visibility of LGBT people, both in cities but also I think in smaller towns and villages, in the media, which is really important. And we've also had the introduction of lots of legislation and laws which have really promoted and introduced equality, and the obvious one being this year, the marriage referendum. But so there's been lots of progress, things have really changed, but what we can't lose sight of is unfortunately that there's still significant problems out there that need to be addressed, and we really look forward to working on them too.